Thank you for tuning in to Highly Detailed News. Today's guest is a very special friend of mine, Gretchen Wright. Having transferred her love of conventional baking into the edibles market, Gretchen is currently the Kitchen Supervisor at Sweetgrass Kitchen. She brings a wealth of knowledge and culture from her travels and experiences, and we are so happy to have her join us. Thank you again for joining us on Highly Detailed. How are you today?
I'm good, Kyle. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you again. It's been so long.
Friend. Hi.
Yeah, I know. I say this every damn episode, but we really wish we could be doing this in person, and hopefully someday soon.
At the very least, look forward to coming home and seeing you at Thanksgiving or Christmas or.
Right, I know, it's all those things. It just doesn't seem to happen anymore. I completely forgot about that. Was actually, I think, the last time we smoked together was Thanksgiving with Friendsgiving, and it was out of all of that. So yeah, that is right. I completely forgot. But yeah, I said we as a show can't wait to travel to Colorado and just do that because I still haven't been there since medical, and so it's one of those things. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta come. It's all different. I mean, I wasn't here when it started, but I've heard the stories.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it'd be like the Wild West of weed out here. We got all kinds of stuff now.
No, it's good and bad both. I don't know. That Wild West period's a very loose term we can throw around. So, but yeah. Real quick, is there anything you wanted to say? But while I light this up, and then we'll roll through our questions. I know pressure's on.
Gosh, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that one. No, I'm grateful to be here. I hope I can give some knowledge. I've been working in this industry for just a little over a year. So this is all still very new to me, very exciting. But I'm very grateful for the potential, for the possibilities that are finally starting to open up. The fact that this isn't just a job, it can be a career. And I'm really happy to help share that it's for everyone, not just, cannabis itself, but the industry is really more inviting and more of a career than I think people are really giving it credit for.
Yeah. As we'll get, it's one of the best places to currently look for a job if you're really looking. And so we have some data on that a little bit later, but it is, I think, especially with the psychological shift we've seen over the past year, I really don't feel the same way about how people would approach these jobs and a lot of things. We're almost past a lot of that. So hopefully it keeps going. Yeah. So our first question, during your travels across Southeast Asia and Eastern America, did you encounter cannabis culture, and were there any negative associations that you came up against when you were doing that?
Well, sure. Just to get there, the first job that I had overseas, you land, they take you to a facility, it's late at night. The first thing you do, you wake up the next morning, you just take a pee test. And if it's positive, you are straight back on a plane home. I had been guaranteed a certain amount of money once I had been there for a month to sort of help cover the cost of moving overseas. But all that's gone. The job offer is off the table. So from the very get-go, the cannabis culture that I was in was very negative, very illegal. It's not something that, I started out in South Korea. It's not something that they really understand. It's sort of phrased as something that those naughty soldiers do. It's what people get up to. And, my coworkers, wonderful ladies, they just didn't what do you mean that that's something that people do? We didn't even really talk about it. It was such a taboo. And then as I started traveling through Southeast Asia, you think of Southeast Asia, you think of Thailand, you think of Bali weed, all these things. But when I was there, which was, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and on back, it still hadn't gotten to where it is right now, where we're starting to see legalization coming through in South Korea, starting to see it in Thailand and Japan. But before then, we're talking years of imprisonment for having an eighth. We're talking beheading for trafficking, and they don't care what country you're from. They catch you doing it, it's out. So it was interesting to come from, America, college life, all that kind of thing, to being so strict, so severe. To me, the biggest, strongest punishment was going to be I mean, I'm a white girl from the Midwest. I'm going to go to jail for maybe a little bit. I'm going to pay a fine, community service. Whereas over there, that same amount of weed is going to get me several years in jail, millions of dollars in penalties, beheading. Like it was just such a different experience for me. But then to also be able to obtain and see how that is actually, that market is there. Clearly, we're seeing it starting to be legalized. So people wanted it. People were already smoking it. The silly ways you go about getting weed in other places.
Right.
I mean, I worked in places where, the office staff would go in together and we'd get a brick and, split up, but you don't have any choice in it. This is the brick, this is what you get. You don't talk about it. You don't tell anybody about it. You don't get to discuss, well, I'd like some sativa, or I'd really prefer more of an indica heavy, calm, relaxed. Not an option. This is your brick. This is what you get. It was interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The ways in which you go about purchasing incredibly subpar product in places that have criminalization is outstanding. And the weird joke here is that if you have the disposal, eventually the police brick just gets thrown out somewhere and you can go pick that up and sell it to kids again. The nonsense cycle is outstanding, and legalization has brought at least a lot more people better access. I think we really need to not neglect the medical benefits that the plant has, but we can definitely enjoy the recreational aspects much easier with it, and that is there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, got a long way to go.
Your weed before you smoke it. Yeah. It's great. It's great what we can do now.
Right? I was going to say, as someone who has traveled, how does your current variety and strains compare to what you've seen before? Are you seeing strain consistency in Colorado? I remember, like several years back during Medical Blue Dream was huge. It had a big rise in fall. East Coast diesels were huge for a while. What have you seen? What's the strain variety been like in Colorado?
I mean, I feel like, the big trend in this area right now, and I could be totally wrong, I live in the kitchen, but what it seems to me and what it sounds like I'm hearing is really companies starting to hold their own and having these proprietary strains that are just theirs. So I think you're going to start to see niche strains. I'm really wanting, CBD weed. So I know I'm going to go over to this company's dispensary and pick that up. Or I want a party strain. So, this company does that sort of thing. That's what I think we're starting to see in this area. And of course, everyone's going to want to have a range within their own product line.
Right.
But I kind of like that, because then it makes me step out of my usual neighborhood dispensary or my go-to one. And it forces me to shop other stores, other companies, and keep that variety fresh in my little home stock,
No, definitely. That's an interesting aspect about how you talk about traveling around. We do have a lot more groups of stores that are like small systems or small companies themselves. Some of them are attached as the actual company. Some of them are just like sister type companies, but you do see similar brands pretty well carried through those. There is talk of the market having trouble with slotting fees, which is basically just companies paying to be on the shelf. And that is something that's been looked into a little bit. And with coronavirus, it's slowed down because you're basically just ordering shelf delivery anyway, and they're ordering a lot of it. So we're at that point that I think once everybody's able to go back outside again and look around, they'll hopefully have a true market variety and be able to represent some of the smaller companies that we actually see. So there is some beautiful things they do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So say, according to Leafly's 2020 job report, cannabis is actually the fastest growing employment opportunity in America. If you could do anything to end the stigma for people currently, what would it be?
I think the things that come to mind were the biggest impacts that working in the industry has had with me. I work in a kitchen. I've always worked in kitchens. People in kitchens don't get treated very well. We do it because we like the job. You're not going to see set hours and shifts. You're not going to see above minimum wage entry pay. You're not going to see healthcare or lunch breaks or coffee breaks. These things don't exist in food. That's what I'm used to. That's what I expect. My first day working in the industry, I showed up and the girl who was training me was like, "Oh, we're going to take lunch. Did you bring something?" I was flabbergasted. Oh, we stop and we eat lunch? We're going to do that. No, the thought never occurred to me to bring a lunch. I work in a kitchen.
Yeah.
I have never not had a lunch since. And that seems, very low bar, but that's food industry for you. I mean, and those are the simple little impacts. But as it is now, I don't just have some insurance. I have fully paid for really good insurance and dental and vision, and these things don't exist in food industry. And so to be able to merge food industry and take it into this cannabis world and have benefits, have, employee care is huge. I mean, because it's not just the food industry, it's people who are normally working on assembly lines. You're going to still have that factory quality job for those people, but now they're elevated. They also are getting well above minimum wage starting pay. They are also getting PTO, which they normally, and great insurance. And so it's like, it's bringing in all these other little industries and even big industries and teaching them, you can do good things too. Like, look how well you can take care of your employees when you have a product that people want, that people buy. We aren't slowing down. We are seen as a staple in people's budgets.
Yeah.
They tried to close down the dispensaries here a couple months ago. I think it lasted 5 hours. The run on dispensaries was so crazy. Like, people are going to be here. Like, I came to this job because I wanted a recession-proof job.
Yeah.
It has proved that it is over and over again during COVID. And everyone that works in all the departments, from the head of sales to our janitorial staff, we all have recession-proof jobs that treat us very well, that allow us a higher quality of life than we're used to experiencing, and working a job that we want to work. And I throw one extra ingredient in my cookies.
Yeah.
That's the biggest impact that being in the industry has had on my workaday life. That's it. I have to wear an ID badge when I walk in. And all these other perks and benefits, like, I think those are the things that people are thinking about when they're thinking about legalizing or bringing the industry to their state. They're thinking about people being, too stoned to go to work, or, not taking care of their kids, or not paying their bills, or their house is a mess. You're not thinking about half the people I work with don't smoke. Yeah. So what? Okay, it's not a requirement to work in the industry, or you can. That's great too, I just think the impact that it has on the people's lives that get to work in the industry is what I want to start to bring to light to people.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great experience that I really, really hope more people can have. I know that people do have mixed experiences, so I'm glad that yours is a good one, because that is what is going to make us move forward as an industry and be reputable. The fact that we can offer true benefits, the fact that we can offer a decent, stable standard of living is incredible, and that is something that people aren't taking for granted. And so I don't think that you have to worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, and when you have more people who have success stories in the industry like me, it starts to impact the way other generations think about it. My parents weren't thrilled, let's be real. But when I can tell my parents I have insurance, and then they can tell their friends that their daughter is employed in such a way, or, oh, my daughter gets to come home for vacation because she gets vacation, whatever it is, it starts to change the face of the cannabis industry. No. To see that moms and dads can work it. And I think there's a broader spectrum to it that people aren't willing to see right now.
Definitely. I mean, we've had alcohol manufacturing forever. We've had all
Right.
sorts of other manufacturing. It's there are, I mean, pharmaceuticals, chemicals. There are other jobs that are potentially imperative if you abuse it, and that is just like all things. So
Is a drug rep is a great job.
yeah,
You know, if I married some guy who's a Budweiser distributor for the region, my mom would probably be thrilled.
yep,
So why the extra stereotype?
definitely, definitely. I mean, it is what it is, and so I don't know how we do it, but I think that it's being done all around us, and so that is a nice thing to contribute.
Yeah.
So let's say, did you have any reservations before getting into cannabis professionally? Was there a specific moment that inspired you to just jump right in?
I had no intention of being in the cannabis industry. Like I said, I was looking for a recession-proof job. You know, I just moved to Colorado. I started at a bakery. Wasn't the right fit, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm here. I gotta pay rent. I gotta work somewhere." And after 3 months of job searching, it was the only place that offered me the pay that I needed and the pay that I deserved for the amount of experience that I had.
Yeah.
And I, had big old pros and cons list that I wrote down in a notebook, and I kind of really worried over it. I talked about it with my sisters, and eventually they're like, "So, you're debating these three different places. What is the reservation with the weed place? Is it just because it's a weed place?" Well, yeah. I mean, I have to get a med card. I have to put my name on a list of people who do the weed thing, and the government will have it, and like all this extra.
Yeah.
What about my taxes? What do I tell mom and dad? And finally I was like, it's the only way I'm going to pay rent. They're the only people that are willing to give me a set schedule. The only people that are willing to give me insurance. So yeah, I'm in. And I did. And, you get a trial period, and I started working. I was like, well, damn, this is actually easier than what I'm used to having to do with all this extra benefit. Fuck yeah, I'll do it. It took me a little bit to actually get behind the job itself, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it's been an incredible thing for you, and we're very, very happy to hear so. I guess while we're talking about the aspect of conventional baking versus normal baking, do you see?
Hold on.
You're right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know an issue that some of my friends that were bakers in restaurants and things that I've worked at pastry places, large quantities of flour and batch sizing. Do you find that the equipment that you're using is fully able to actually handle these large batch loads? Do you have any issue with anybody having to do extra lifting because of it? Or are there things that you noticed which are all too common, unfortunately, in normal baking?
No. I walked into the kitchen at Sweetgrass and instantly recognized and understood and had used every single piece of equipment except for one, and it was the dough extruder.
Yeah.
Which I understood what it was and how it was. I just hadn't used one that big yet.
Right.
Because I was used to commercial baking. I mean, a cookie is a cookie. It has to be done in the creaming method. There's only so many ways to do it. Just because your butter's green,
Yeah.
it doesn't change. It was actually a really smooth, easy transition. When I hire people to work in my kitchen, I don't expect them to have any experience making weed cookies, because it's just a cookie.
Yeah.
An 80-quart mixer looks just like the 80-quart mixer from the place I was before. You're going to go in the walk-in with all the big old pounds of butter. Where I work, we do use full flour butter. So that is, one step that could seem very large and very daunting, I'm sure, but it's actually really easy whenever you're in a commercial kitchen using commercial things, because it's used to big scale doing these things. I have 2 speed racks, that are fused together that roll into my oven. So I just decarb 21 pounds of flour in 2 hours in one go. Done. Dump it in the steam kettle, stir, done. And that's not that different from making jam.
Yeah.
I already knew how to do that. And place I worked before, we used the exact same equipment. So it's actually really simple. You don't want anyone to feel like I don't have any experience doing this. I don't know. No schools are teaching this. I know JWU is a culinary school in Denver area. They were looking into adding a cannabis line into their culinary classes, but they're actually downsizing due to COVID, so they had to put that plan aside. But no one has too much information on how to do this stuff going into the industry, so I don't want people to be afraid of that. It's all the same. It's all normal. A brownie's a brownie. Easy, easy.
Yeah. Well, that's especially on I would say a commercial scale. We've established some set products that are pretty stable, that have done some things. So most of the efforts in your extraction and infusion. And so that is a different scientific process entirely. So I almost don't know if culinary schools need a separate cannabis part, maybe just like a branch of it, because like you say, if you're able to knock out, loaf pans, you're already doing a huge part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, baking's a science. You got that science down. We're just adding an extra step. I know there's, all kinds of debate between full flour and, using distillate. That's something that we're, always kicking around, always working with, trying to know the pros and cons of. And so, of course, that science can get a little bit more concrete. But otherwise, I think it's the things that our industry is starting to face is how do you increase shelf life with your food products, with having, if you have butter in there, that's going to be something that can expire, and then mass production. We're coming at our people and we're like, okay, you made this depositor. We want to squirt out, cookies or brownies or whatever. No one knows how to do that part of it yet. Like, what foods are options? Can we go past a special brownie?
Yeah.
Can we do lollipops? Can we do milkshakes? Can we, all these things, all these thoughts? And really what I find is the restricting factors, the regulations. I would love to, come out with like a cupcake or whatever. But, the testing regulations, very important, but, they're restrictive, how you can serve it, things like that. That's where I think there's still room to play around and to learn and to grow in that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just say that meat and dairy just really angers the FDA for whatever reason. So there's lots of things you avoid.
Ice cream bee, it would be so good.
Right. It's
plan and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it gets tricky.
It's funny. It is weird the way that goes, right? So bang. So according to Statista, during the December 2019 in Colorado, some 1.1 million units of adult use cannabis-infused edibles were sold, and many dispensaries reporting major increases in sales since the outbreak of COVID, obviously. Has the industry suffered any supply distribution interruptions, or are you guys lucky enough to have a little bit more stable of supply line?
I'd say, having talked to you about California, we have a little bit more steady supply because we're all indoor grows, so we can grow year round. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's really more just our ability to push it out. The demand is there. Everybody wants more. Really concentrate is what we've really seen. Your shatter, your wax. It takes a lot of green to make those things, and it takes a couple months to grow the good green. And
yeah,
it's just time. Time has really been the main constraint. But yeah, others we're pushing as fast as we can. Something like, oh gosh, they told us a couple months ago that we like over 110% increase in sales in certain products over like the last 2 or 3 months, and that was in like July.
Yeah.
So it's only ramped up from there.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Hopefully we're seeing holiday buying as well right now already. So
yeah. I think a way to combat it would be really great if we could start to open up trade against state lines. If you can have facilities, in California who have this lovely outdoor growing season, if, you guys were able to send that to your stores in Michigan or to your stores, and now we're going to have Arizona online, things like that. I think that'd be really helpful. Like, that's what other companies get to do. They get to push their supply and demand across state lines, and they get to share with their competitors if they need to. We don't have that option.
Right. I'm, it's a weird thing as we go forward. I hope that we can kind of maintain some of that quality. And how do we still like have the incentive to have someone take the 12, 13 weeks on some of this rare or primo? And how do you encourage them to actually do that when the market says now? And
Right.
that's kind of the weird thing, is we kind of want it bigger, faster, stronger in this industry, and we're losing some of the nuance of the plant, unfortunately. So I would like to see a little more stabilization so we can get some of that good stuff back in, but it's
Great.
around. Yeah, you can find it.
You can find it. But yeah, I mean, the more businesses are allowed to, be able to use banking, well, then they could get a loan to like have more greenhouses, or, to get a hydroponic system in place, or to get a nutrient drip in place. Something as simple as banking
Yeah.
would allow us that time.
Yeah.
Be able to take out a loan to experiment on this project, or to have a crop that grows a little bit longer, because you have that backstop cash flow to pay your employees.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, currently at this rate, it's all investor money, and the investor money is dwindling and not paying well. And so,
Right.
yeah, I don't actually see most places as a good investment, because there aren't a lot of the protections and systems and incentives for you to be able to continue to make your money without taking more investors and things.
Right.
So it is weird. It's gonna, until we get some tweaks in any direction, we're just gonna play in this box, I guess. So yeah.
Trying as hard as we can.
No, absolutely. It was so incredible having you on. We thank you so much for all your insight. I'm so glad that you could share how not scary it is to be in a kitchen that makes cannabis. It's I think people are oftentimes very, very surprised when you hear it's like, what do you mean? It's like it's actually, I'm just busier because we sell more of them, and that's the only difference usually.
Celebrate Christmas, right? Like, I'm not losing my mind at the holidays because I'm not pushing out pies and Christmas cookies for everybody. Like, quality of life. I don't have customers. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. Yeah, your weird holiday ramp ups are just normal holiday ramp ups. Yeah.
It's fine.
No. Thank you so much again. Hopefully we can see you in person, and we will absolutely do it.
Yeah, so good seeing you, Kyle. I miss you.
We miss you as well. Hopefully we can make it happen very, very soon.
Very soon. Thanks, friend.
Bye.
Bye.